Hi, so I had a chance to observe you, and I definitely enjoyed it. As you reflected on the lesson, how do you think it went?
I think overall it went pretty well. I think my modeling was definitely, like, I didn't overmodel. I think it was pretty much to the point of the lesson that I wanted to get at with, having them focus in on one moment and add those descriptive details. So I think that was good. I think they're starting to be able to add things to their writing, but I think there's still a lot more we could work on with it. So overall, I think it went well.
And so your goal was to reflect on the timing of your modeling, also noticing the student behaviors during the modeling, as well as the questions that were asked during the conferring portion of the lesson. And so I was able to record that data for you. And so when you're looking at the data, what do you notice in relation to the goals that you had?
So I think in terms of the student behaviors, Kayla definitely is more distracted during the lesson, or at least the modeling part of the lesson, when she's not actively engaged in doing something, whereas Mara is more attentive. But then again, so that's just kind of when I was talking, but then when I started reading the mentor text, they were both really engaged, and that's kind of something I've seen across the board. If I use a mentor text in writing or in reading for meeting, they definitely I think being read to and that time. So that's a good thing. Let's see. I think it was good that because I was going to rewrite my personal narrative on the chart paper, but I think that, just showing them what I had already written did save some time, so I think that was a good change that I made, because then I think, again, they would have just been sitting there watching me, and then they're not actively engaged. So I think that probably, while I didn't even realize I made that change in the moment, it was a good decision to make. Let's see. I think when I conferenced with Kayla, I didn't just, I had her explain what she was thinking and, pick out the part that she wanted to expand on. But she definitely needed some teacher support in order to come up with some descriptive words. So I definitely had to, prompt her a little bit with, how did you feel? And then what words, I guess she said scared, so what words could you use for feeling scared, or what happens when we feel scared. So I think, that just shows they still need some support, but I was able to kind of prompt her through that. And then I think Mara struggles a little bit more with adding the details. She is telling what happened. We went downstairs, we did this, and I actually saw that yesterday in our lesson too. She was switching up adding details versus adding descriptive language. Right. So she'll be well, I added more, but it's just telling. So I think she definitely needs more support and practice with that.
So you're saying that with the goal of being to expand on their small moment, you noticed that Mara was focused more on telling. So what could you maybe, going forward, implement to...
I think that I need to do a little bit more instruction and explicit instruction with the difference between just adding more details and more facts about what happened versus taking what we already have and like adding descriptive language or, adding more descriptive language to that. And we worked actually a little bit on that yesterday, but it's definitely still something. Like, they can identify it in a text, the descriptive language. All three of us came up with, like, sentences that showed didn't tell, but then once they go and do it independently, that skill still isn't there. So
to make that transfer happen from, like you said, the guided practice and the modeling to their independent work.
Yeah. So I guess one of the thoughts I had was, like, so we did independent practice, but it was just like specific sentences. So maybe if I took a specific sentence from their work and just pulled it out, so they're not looking at the whole paragraph that they've written. I think maybe sometimes they, like, look at the whole thing and get lost in it. So if we just pulled out a few sentences and worked, like, specifically on those, maybe that would be a little bit more, I guess, it wouldn't be as overwhelming for them to look at the whole paragraph, and we'd just be able to focus in on one sentence at a time.
Okay.
So maybe that could be a way I could do that.
So as you were reflecting on the data, what can you say about your tutee's achievement of the objectives of the lesson? In terms of being able to
I think they're
expand.
Definitely not independent with it.
Okay.
I think they definitely still require teacher support for that. So I guess moving forward, just working towards that independence.
So independence with being able to expand on
their ideas, and
adding descriptive language and
right. Yeah, I think adding adding the descriptive language, and then one of the things we worked on like Mara was working on adding some more dialogue. So I think I guess with that it's just like more practice, and over time they'll become more independent with that. But I think, like I said, if maybe I, like, pick out those, well, it would still be providing support, but if I'm picking out a specific sentence for them, at least it's like giving them...
And I'm thinking back to what Dr. Lee had said, do you remember in class yesterday, about how so often we show the sentences that...
Right, showing not good examples of a sentence, but showing... great sentences. Yeah, I think that probably would be a great idea, to help them see those great examples. Because, like I said, they are able to identify, like, those great words in a text, so maybe just having those samples as opposed, like, and not even having, like, simple sentences that would be good for them.
And so in terms of the questioning that you had asked to look at, what insights are you kind of discovering about your practice in that area in terms of questioning during conferencing?
I think... I think what I've tried to, for both of them, start out just, like, with, tell me what you're thinking about, and then I can see as I, like, went through, I kind of had to provide more support as I went along.
So you're saying it was helpful to kind of start with, like, an open statement to let them share.
To give them a chance to, like, share, so I'm not just, like, telling them what I think, or, like, giving them a suggestion if they're not, like, on, the same track or what I'm thinking. So just kind of letting them lead that little, like, mini conference, I think, is definitely something that I want to keep doing and, be cognizant of when I'm conferencing with them. And then I think it's, hard because we don't have that much time to work on it, but I was able to, like, check in with both girls twice, which I think it was a great thing, because then I was able to, like, when I went back to Kayla, I was able to see what she had added and give her some skill-specific praise, which I think is important for both of them. So yeah, I think just continuing to be cognizant of kind of having a broad question, an open-ended question for them to explain their thinking or is definitely something that I want to keep doing.
Anything else I wanted to ask? Okay, and I guess going forward in future lessons, what from this lesson do you plan to carry forward?
I think sticking with that, like explicit modeling is definitely a benefit. I think seeing like their behaviors during that modeling, if I can come up with something to have them a little bit more engaged while it's happening.
Right, so you were saying that you notice that Kayla's more distracted, but we obviously have learned that you want to, make sure students are engaged, and
right.
What's something that maybe we could, or that could be used to check for her
engagement
or her understanding during that time, like
right, yeah, I guess like while I'm modeling, incorporate just like a little more questioning, so I'm like asking, even if it's just like, oh, can you repeat what I just said, like just so that I know that she is actively listening to what I'm saying. Trying to think. And I guess it wasn't so much in this lesson, but like thinking to other lessons, like if we're using like an anchor chart or we're doing something like that, like having them both a little more involved in like writing down the ideas on the chart, or they like seem to both like writing on the whiteboard, so maybe just like, oh, write down like important things that like one important thing you think I say or something, so they kind of are being held accountable for that time where they're listening. So I think doing something in terms of that I might see a decrease in her inattention.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thank you.